Yo, what's going on, guys? Realm Gaming here, back with another video. Today's episode, we're taking a look at the balanced druid in phase 3 of Season of Discovery. We're going to be going over talents, runes, and rotation in this guide. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started here. So we're going to start out with the balanced tree here on the left hand side. We're going to be putting 5 points into improved wrath. Reduce the cast time of your wrath spells by 0.5 seconds. So we're getting some quick wraths out. It will be very core to our rotation. We're going to be putting 5 points into improved moonfire, increase the damage and critical strike chance of your moonfire spell by 10%. And kind of the weird one here, 5 points into natural weapons, so increases the damage you deal with physical attacks in all forms by 10%. So 5 points into this, pretty much useless. However, it does give us access to Omen of Clarity, which was changed this phase. So imbues the druid with natural energy. Each of the druid's melee attacks have a chance to cause the caster to enter a clear casting state. So this was changed. I don't think this tooltip was updated, but this does proc from spells as well. So this will proc from any non-instant spells. Anything that has a cast time should proc this. So when this does proc, you enter into a clear casting state. Clear casting state reduces the mana, rage, or energy cost of the next damaging or healing spell or offensive ability by 100%. So we put 5 points into this because there's really nothing else you could put points into that is useful. We pretty much are already taking all the useful stuff in the balance tree, and there's nothing crazy in the feral tree in the first couple of rows, and there's nothing really crazy in the first couple of rows here in the restoration tree either. Now we could take a couple points out of this and put it into improved mark of the wild, but then you're going to have 3 or 4 points that you can't really put into anything else. So that's why we're doing this here, right? Is to get that Omen of Clarity proc. All right, anyways, moving on. Nature's Reach increases the range of your Wrath, Entangling Roots, Fairy Fire, Moonfire, Starfire, and Hurricane spells by 20%. Nice little utility to have there. 5 points into Vengeance increases the critical strike damage bonus of your Starfire, Moonfire, and Wrath spells by 100%. Going 5 points into Improved Starfire, reduce the cast time of Starfire by 0.5 seconds, and has a 15% chance to stun the target for 3 seconds. So of course we're just going for this for that reduced cast time. 1 point into Nature's Grace. All spell criticals grace you with a Blessing of Nature, reducing the cast time of your next spell by 0.5 seconds. 3 points into Moonglow, reduce the mana cost of Moonfire, Starfire, and Wrath, as well as Healing Touch, Regrowth, and Rejuve by 9%. 5 points into Moon Fury, increase the damage done by your Starfire, Moonfire, and Wrath spells by 10%. And then, of course, 1 point into Moonconform. So while in Moonconform, you get 360% increased armor, and all party members within 30 yards are going to have their spell critical chance increased by 3%. So if you are new to Balance Druid, this is what's going to turn you into the big owl, right? So some people hate looking like the big owl, but to me, I think it's pretty cool. So we're going to do that. Then we're going to put 3 points into Improved Mark of the Wild. So just going to increase the effect of our Mark of the Wild by 21% for 3 points. Okay, let's take a quick look at runes here. Head rune, so these are going to be the 3 new head runes here. For the most part, for most classes in Phase 3 head runes, they decided to be more on the defensive side. So we're not going to be getting anything crazy here. So that means we're going to have to be taking Improved Bark Skin of these 3. So Gale Winds does look nice, right? This increases the damage done by your Hurricane by 100%. It no longer has a cooldown, and its mana cost is reduced by 20%. So really good for dungeons, right? But not good for raid. So very situational on running that. We have Gore. Striking a target with Lacerate, Swipe, or Maul has a 15% chance to reduce the cooldown on Mangle and Bear. And grant 10 Rage. Striking a target with Mangle, Cat. Shred has 5% chance to reset the cooldown on Tiger's Fury. Not us, right? That's Feral and Tank Druid. So that leaves us with Improved Bark Skin. And there is a little bit of utility to be had here, right? Your Bark Skin can now be cast on allies, no longer penalizes melee combat speed or spellcasting time, and can be cast while shape shifted. So You can just kind of throw this on the tank during big tank shred phases, and it should kind of help keep them alive. So very nice to have. I definitely recommend picking up Improved Bark Skin. In the chest rune, we are taking Fury of Storm Rage. Reduce the mana cost of Wrath by 100%, so Wrath no longer will cost mana, and each time you deal damage with Wrath, you have a 12% chance for your next cast of Healing Touch within 15 seconds to be instant cast and castable in any shape form. So a little bit of additional utility here too, just if, for whatever reason you're off healing, Fury of Storm Rage does kind of help us with that. And then of course, reduce mana cost of Wrath by 100%, just kind of a no-brainer there. All right, taking a look at the wrist runes. So nothing too crazy here. So these are going to be the 3 new runes of this phase. Let's talk about Efflorescence first. Your Swift Mend now causes Efflorescence, healing all party members within 15 yards of the Swift Mend's target location. So this is not going to be us. That's Resto Druid. Going down to Improved Frenzied Regeneration. This is probably going to be more tank, right? Your Frenzied Regeneration can now be used in all forms or while not shapeshifted, and now convert your active resource into health every second for 10 seconds. Up to 10 rage, 10 energy, or 5% base mana is converted per second into up to 10% health. So, and then finally we have Elune's Fires here. So some of your spells and abilities extend the duration of your damage and heal over time effects on the target. So Starfire extends Moonfire by 6 seconds. Wrath extends Sunfire by 3. Regrowth extends Rejuve by 6. Shred extends Rip by 2. Each effect can only be extended up to 3 times. So that means eventually at some point you're going to have to recast Moonfire and Sunfire again. But really nice to have. This will help us with several globals, so this will really help our single target damage for sure. Let's go to the hand rune Sunfire here. So I'm not going to go in and read all this because a lot of this is just extra fluff for Cat and Bear, but this is just one of your dot effects. So if you're familiar with what Moonfire does, it's the opposite of that, but for Sunfire. So it's just an additional dot that you can put out. So really core to our damage profile. Then on the Waste rune, we are going to be running Eclipse. So Starfire increases the critical strike chance of your next 2 Wraths by 30%. And Wrath reduces the cast time of your next Starfire by 1 second. Both effects stacking up to 4 charges. Both spells also gain 70% chance at all times to not lose cast time when you take damage. So this is Blizzard's kind of attempt here to put Eclipses into Balanced Druid, and it's not too bad, really, right? Your Wraths empower your Starfires, your Starfires empower your Wraths. So it kind of gives you a reason to go between the 2 different damage types, right? So we'll get to this a little bit more when we get to the rotation, but for now, this kind of segues us into Star Surge, which is what we're going to be running in our leg rune. So launches Surging Stellar Energies that cause X amount of arcane damage and increases the damage done by your next 1 Starfire cast by 80% for 15 seconds. So the cool thing about Star Surge is the very bottom. Star Surge benefits from and triggers most talents and effects that trigger or benefit from Wrath or Starfire. So I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to pull the concept of astral power from retail. So in retail, you have solar power and lunar power effects, and astral power benefits from both. And I think that's just kind of what they're trying to do here as well, where Star Surge benefits from both Wrath and Starfire bonuses. So again, we'll get into this a little bit more once we start talking about the rotation. So let's move on to our foot rune, Dream State. Your damaging spell critical strikes grant you 50% of your mana regeneration while casting for 8 seconds, and increases nature damage dealt to the target by 20% for 12 seconds. So Dream State is going to go really well with Wrath, right? Because Wrath is mana free. We can cast it a whole bunch, and we kind of fish for these critical strike procs for Dream State. So I don't believe our rotation changes too much from phase 2. Right, we didn't get anything super crazy or new. So this will be our rotation, right? We're going to cast Star Surge whenever it's available on cooldown. And what we want to do is we want to cast 1 Starfire between every 2 Star Surge casts. So if we remember right from the Star Surge rune, it's going to buff our next Starfire. So we want to make sure we're getting a Starfire in there with that extra buff damage in between each star surge. So after that, then what we're going to do is we're going to keep the Sunfire dot up as much as we can, and the Moonfire dot up as much as we can. And again, if we go back to one of our new runes here, we have Elun's Fires. So that's going to help us extend Moonfire and Sunfire up to 3 times. So 9 seconds on Sunfire, 18 seconds on Moonfire before you have to recast them. And of course, the less time we're having to cast Moonfires and Sunfires means the more Wraths that we can kind of cast, and it should just overall increase our damage. And then finally, we have Wrath here just kind of as our filler spell. So if there's nothing else to do, we're casting Wrath, we're fishing for critical strikes for Omen of Clarity, and just trying to get as much filler damage in as we possibly can in between dot applications. So going back to the top of this, right? So just to kind of understand this a little bit better, we cast Star Surge whenever it's available, and then we want to cast Starfire, right? Because Star Surge buffs Starfire. Now the issue here with this a little bit is if we go back to our Eclipse, Starfire increases the critical strike chance of your next 2 Wraths by 30%. So if we go in there and we start casting Wraths, it's going to use those 30% critical strike chances that could have gone to Star Surge instead, right? Because Star Surge benefits from that 30% critical strike as well. So really, what you want to be doing is you want to be delaying your Starfire until later in your rotation. And that's kind of where this comes into play down here at the bottom. You can optimize your DPS by delaying Starfire. So delay that Starfire, don't waste those 30% crit buffs from Eclipse on just little Wraths, right? You can use one on Wrath, but the other one you want to use on your next Star Surge. So if it were me, I would change this rotation a little, right? It would be Star Surge whenever it's available, keep Sunfire up, Moonfire up, Wrath as much as you can, then Starfire into a Star Surge, and just kind of continue that gameplay loop. And the reason you don't Starfire at the start of your rotation, right, is because it's got kind of a long cast time, and it's just more damage just to get an unbuffed Star Surge out and get it back on cooldown again. All right, guys, and this is the BiS list coming from Zockify. I'm just going to hover over each item. Feel free to just go to Zockify's website and read over some of the stuff. But for the purpose of this video, I'll hover over each item. You can pause it on what you find interesting. All right, guys, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. We will see you all in the next one.